I have with me Mr. David Apasera, PNC flagbearer, the previous elections, and I'll pick his thoughts as to one, his party, and then national issues. Mr. Apasera, it's good to have you in the studio this morning.
Thank you.
I'm hoping you're doing well, sir.
I'm doing well.
You're doing well.
Yeah.
You had my conversation with the MPP's communications director, Mr. Richard Ahiagba,
Yes.
all to do with comments made by the former president and then Mr. Brian Champon.
Yes.
What do you make, in a very short comment, what do you make of all that's happening with this issue?
Thank you. And let me take the opportunity to say a good morning to your cherished viewers. Well, what I see is that we have a difficulty, and that is why we have the other parties, even though we are smaller parties. But we have been appealing to Ghanaians that when we leave the ball to be passed from two major political parties, we are heading towards a crisis situation.
Okay.
Because it comes to a stage where the party A, or to put it blankly, NDC and MPP, they think that if it is not NDC, it is MPP. If it is not MPP, it is NDC. And that is where you have these kind of statements being made. And they have a feeling that either side thinks that the other party will use some force, will use some intimidation, and so on. But if we were looking at the generality of the political parties and picking on who can make a good governance for this country. After all, Ghanaians have had a taste of MPP and they have had a taste of NDC. And I think we haven't come out of the woods. We are still in crisis, and every day people are complaining. So why would we allow two people to be locked, lock and horns, to an extent that these kind of statements will be put out there?
Should the IGP be interested? Should he invite these persons?
Well, I think that wherever somebody makes a comment and there is the tendency to generate tension and fear and, prepare people's mind towards anything that may be violent, the IGP has a responsibility to look at it. At least, certain times not to prosecute, but just to caution is good. That we are cautioned. Because certain times as politicians, you can talk and then go over. When you get emotional, that is normal. But it may be for somebody to caution that, look, the implication of this statement could be this. And that would be good enough for Ghana.
Now, let's mind our business. That's MPP and DC's business. Let's come to the PNC. How is the PNC doing?
Well, we still have a problem. We have gone to court for the court to make a pronouncement as to who is actually in charge of PNC. Because we have gone through, we looked at a constitution, went by a constitution, and we got Janet suspended. Janet went to Kumasi, called some other regional chairmen who had been loyalists of our former leader, Edward Mahama. And then they met there and claimed that they had called a NEC meeting. That is not what NEC is. And yet they came back and said they had suspended we who were properly elected at the Congress, every one of us, replaced their own people, suspended a number of regional chairmen across the country, and they appointed their own people. And then it is like the party is now being run by two persons. We were in the party office. They came up there, hey, trouble. Police said, no, you people have to resolve your issue before you come to the party office. We were there. And what could we do? We have been law-abiding. And so we thought that, yes, if it is so, let the court interpret our constitution and tell us who should be in charge of the party. And that is good enough for us. Otherwise, you see, we don't want a situation where we go into this kind of violent thing. For me, the party had gone down very, 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 very low. And when we were coming in, these crises were there. So because of this crisis, the party couldn't hold a national congress until 2 months to election. And the crises have continued. The people who fostered these crises are still working at it. I don't know what they want for this party. I don't know what. Mahama was in the mainstream, and he is still fostering this kind of confusion. I don't know where he was the party to go. But I am praying that the court will look at it and maybe fast track the whole process and then give us an opportunity to reorganize our party.
So the duly elected executives don't go to the office?
We don't go to the office. Our keys are with the police. And we made appeals to the police. We said, look, if anybody thinks that what they did in Kumasi is a neck, they should look contested in the court. When we go to court today, nobody files anything. Tomorrow, another thing. By the time we're going to sit down, they come forth with something. Just trying to prolong the case in the court. It's a simple matter. Looking at the Constitution vis-a-vis what took place in Kumasi, and then telling us where it is. But it is dribbling in the court so that the case prolongs it. And then the police are holding on to our keys. And we were properly elected at Congress. So how can even NEC, per our Constitution, cannot dismiss people? You have to take the person to the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee will take the person through, give its recommendation before you go to NEC and consider the recommendation. You can't just go and call a group of people, even if it is NEC. You can't do that. You can't just call NEC and say, we've sacked this man without fair hearing. We don't do that.
I have seen instances where people have taken cases to court and they have chosen the path later on of ADR, later on alternative dispute resolution mechanism for themselves. Have you thought about withdrawing the case to settle it in-house as a political party that intends to contest in an election coming?
Now, the thing is not like we haven't given a thought to it. The person who has decided to say he is sacking us, she is doing it, doesn't recognize that we have Council of Elders. She doesn't recognize that we have a disciplinary committee. She doesn't recognize that we have party leaders. So who is going to sit down and talk with who now? That is the difficulty. If it is in a situation where the person recognizes that, yeah, these are party elders, and so they can call us to order. If it is that, fine. But the person says, look, I don't recognize, there are no party elders.
What makes Janet so powerful in your party? What makes her so powerful? Because it looks like all of you, you know, she's been able to subdue all of you. What makes her so powerful?
No, I would say that the party was divided before we came in.
Okay.
We never anticipated it that way. But there are these people who have been there as regional chairmen, and they have been there for a very long time. Some of them have been sent to Mecca and they are back. They owe their allegiance to Dr. Mahama.
Okay.
You understand? Now, when Janet misbehaved to a certain level, we tried Dr. Mahama to resolve it. Dr. Mahama said he won't do it. He has washed off his hands. When we took the matter through the disciplinary committee and finally to NEC, and then she was suspended, the same man called all these regional chairmen who had been, with him to a meeting in Kumasi. Tried to convince all of them. Some of them blatantly in his face refused. And then he went to Kumasi. Then they said somebody was in America and chairing that meeting. It's not in the Constitution. Even if the chairman of our party is not in a NEC meeting, he has to write for somebody. The operating word is presence at the meeting. somebody says in America and says via Zoom, I chaired the meeting. And then they come out and say, we have dismissed this, we suspended or sacked the leadership. Now we are in the office, and then we see police come there and seize my key, seize the German's key, and says, don't come to the office. You are, how can I say? I would not know exactly what makes it. But I think that the cracks had been there, and we never resolved those cracks. We didn't know about them.
All right. It looks like if we decide to dwell on the problems of the PNC, it won't be a now affair. But you know, you are a Ghanaian.
Yes.
And whatever is going on in this country affects you as well, regardless of your problems with the PNC. How do you find Ghana today?
Well, I think that we had gotten into a kind of a problem, and I have been saying that Ghana is like a victim of circumstances. Okay. Because we had COVID that came and slowed down the economy very badly, and then afterwards we have Russia-Ukraine war that has also brought its toll on all economies, not only Ghana. And our situation is much more difficult because, you see, if you look at the fact that volume of traffic, that I had to go through this volume of traffic, and that we are burning dollars, you understand? Because we have importing finished product. So every month, we may need about $300 million to just buy petrol and burn on the street. Now, when you are doing that, and your income in terms of dollar is not matching, certainly the dollar will go way high. Because whatever you have, when you have a lot of money chasing a particular smaller item, which is smaller in the supply, certainly, you see, the price will go high. And that's why the dollar has gone so high against the cedi. Until we are able to resolve such an issue, we will have a problem. The other issue is that I think that Ghanaians, we are not considerate about the way we want to make profits. You see, because I can tell you that in the neighboring countries, you can't just import this and decide to put whatever price you have on it. But that's what happens in Ghana.
But have you heard the traders tell you that the kind of taxes they pay at the point of entry influences the cost of these products, the transportation costs, which are all being fueled by the prices of these petroleum products that you say that we import and burn on our streets? That's the cost of the prices of the products you're talking about. Yeah,
but I'm very... I appreciate that, fine, because tax to a certain level is actually against just the consumer. Whatever tax we are putting is against the consumer. But the truth is that, you see, with Ghana's situation, I think we are being too exorbitant. Even our food staff coming here, when the Ministry of Agriculture decided to intervene, what was it? It was different. The farmer is not actually getting what he is supposed to get. It's just a middleman. And they bring it, and it is exorbitant. Are
we not comparing two different things? For instance, what the ministry brought from, let's say, whichever places they got them from, to Accra. If the farmer is bringing all these, let's say, produce to town, the farmer is looking at his cost of transport. Maybe the ministry had, by virtue of being a ministry, had some other agencies that provided vehicles, that provided fuel for them to bring the produce onto the market, and so could sell at the price at which they were selling. But the farmer has to look at all these factors and put them on the cost of the produce.
The farmer actually doesn't bring produce to the market. If the farmer brings it to the market, the farmer cannot sell. The market is a cartel. You can't bring your things and just sell like that. My nephew brought pepper from all the way from the north. He couldn't sell it. It is a cartel, so the farmer will never bring it. But you, the trader, who go there, you go there and you buy it. At least it should be moderate for people. Because what I'm just seeing is that anybody who has anything to do, prices is anyhow. And in the neighboring countries, you don't do that. And that is why I think that there must also be some caution there. You see, people are in the school. You are going to just snap them pictures for their final exam. You are using a mobile phone. You are charging every people 30 cedis, just using a mobile phone and snapping them. We have problems, but I think that Ghanaians need to understand that wherever you have an opportunity, and if you make it so exorbitant, the next person will have to make it exorbitant to meet your demand. And that is where we are. We get into a situation like a quagmire, and we find it difficult to come out of it.
Now, you keep referencing our neighboring countries where as much as prices of goods and produce are expensive here, it's not the same there because there is a check system to ensure that you don't overprice. Isn't it the same argument that we have heard, economists and, other political figures make, that if indeed your point about the Ukraine war, the COVID-19 was anything to go by, then our neighboring countries should be experiencing the same inflationary figures and macroeconomic figures we are experiencing in Ghana, but that's not the case there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Look at the volume of traffic in Ghana. I don't think we have that in Togo. We don't have that in Burkina Faso.
In terms of
Togo? Yes, Togo. Their volume of traffic is not like ours. The number of cars running their street is not like ours. Maybe the amount of the dollar they need is not as much as we need. You see, so we needed to address issues like refining our own crude oil and then making sure that we produce enough of whatever we want and try as much as possible to minimize the importation. And that would have helped us. You see, look at the kind of construction that we are doing here. The overheads, overpasses, and so on. The roads. So much capital intensive. Where are we getting the money? We have to go borrowing, and we have to go borrowing, and we are doing it because we want to have first-class roads. We want to have traffic flow, and then you have to go and borrow and borrow and borrow. Now you cannot. No, I don't see how we can ever come out of borrowing. Because, you see, and even if you look at it, some offices are there. We have government infrastructure that may be utilized for others. Yet we go for loans to build even offices. So once we go into that kind of system, where I have to tell Ghanaians, when I come, I'm going to make a dual carriage to Kumasi or dual carriage to Takrady, certainly I'm going to borrow. And when you borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow, and like I'm saying, the dollar shoots up against you, you see your debt burden too high to bear. That is where we are finding ourselves.
All right. Our time is exhausted. For your membership, a word to them, PNC members.
Oh, I appeal to PNC members. I know that you have had patience with the party and the leadership, and you know that the problem is not today. It started some time back before we came, but we are making, certainly we are not taking it light. We are fighting hard, and we are hoping that with the support of all institutions that are supposed to handle our matter, things will be resolved, and we will have our various elections from polling station to National Congress at the proper time that can permit the party to go forward. So want to appeal to them to keep faith with the leadership. We shall resolve the issues.
I'm so grateful, Mr. Apasera, that you made time to join me this morning on the show, sir.